what is Fitra? Fitra is a Qur'anic concept. It comes from the Qur'an, where it says God has created us upon the Fitra. So what is Fitra in English? It's a natural constitution of the human being. It's the natural disposition. And there's a hadith or a saying of the Prophet Muhammad that God created us upon the Fitra, or upon a natural constitution. God has created us in a certain way. And then it's our parents who make us Jews, Christians, or Zoroastrians, and so the implication is that God has created us for Islam. Now, many modern Muslims, contemporary Muslims, have said that, well, this is pointing to Islam, that the Fitra is naturally Islam, or it points to our fulfillment as human beings in the religion of Islam. It's an apologetic based on Fitra. If we look at the history, though, of how this term's been used, we see a lot of diversity. So in the early Islamic tradition, 700s, 800s, 900s, we have three basic views. One is that the Fitra is Islam. Another view, though, is very different, and that is that the Fitra is our predestination to be believers or to be unbelievers. And if we're believers, of course, we end up in paradise. If we're unbelievers, we end up in hell. So it's strictly predestination. And then the third view is that we are born in a blank slate, that our deeds, we're not predisposed one way or the other to bad deeds or good deeds. The philosopher Ibn Sina, or Avicenna as he's known in the West, has a rather different view from these three. He lived in the early 1000s, and he saw the Fitra as that knowledge we have of the world as we know it in space and time. And so this creates a problem. If Fitra only knows that space-time world, then it doesn't have access to God, who is outside space and time, who is immaterial and non-corporeal, incorporeal. And so the Fitra can even lead you astray, and you need your intellect to give you knowledge of God. And the intellect is that thus in opposition, has to overcome the Fitra. Al-Ghazali, another great theologian, said that, well, the Fitra is something like Ibn Sina says, but it also includes knowledge of God. But it doesn't include moral knowledge. Then we have another figure, Ibn Taymiyya, who lived in the early 1300s. He says Fitra includes much more. It includes knowledge of God. It includes moral knowledge. And fundamentally, it is that predisposition to believe in God and to love God, not just believe in God, but to love God. And yet it's not Islam itself. Rather, the Fitra is that Islam as a potential. So when the human being is born, the human being is oriented toward Islam, but is not yet a Muslim in the full sense of the word. The human being has to grow. And yet there's this natural inclination to believe in Islam. And he gives the example of a baby who is born, has a natural disposition to drink its mother's milk. So it's in a similar fashion. And it's this concept that modern Muslims are picking up, that the human being is naturally disposed toward Islam, this concept that Ibn Taymiyyah developed, and they're picking up and making it into an apologetic for Islam.